So we're here with Mike O'Brien for the Friends of Seattle endorsement meeting. And just to start off, we have a couple questions that establish your past support of different things. The first one is, did you support the Parks Levy?
Yes, I did.
Did you support Sound Transit 2, the expansion plan?
The one that passed in 2008?
Yes.
Yes, I worked very hard to get that on the ballot.
Right. And then the first more open-ended question we have is about the head tax, and just basically, do you support eliminating the head tax, and why or why not?
I do not support eliminating the head tax. I will acknowledge that as a small business owner myself, filling out a third, fourth, fifth tax form, periodically sometimes can feel somewhat burdensome, and I think that the city could probably do a better job of streamlining the taxing mechanism so it doesn't feel so burdensome. The actual amount I don't think is terribly burdensome, and in fact I think the idea that we're creating an incentive for people to take alternative modes to get to work is an outstanding. That's exactly the type of taxing mechanism the city should have. Something that creates an incentive for people to do what we want them to do. So eliminating it, I think, is just ridiculous, especially at a time when we have budget shortfalls, especially when it's dedicated funding towards the types of transportation improvements that we really need in the city. It's clearly a political stunt to win over some people, but I think it's kind of absurd.
Okay. So if you were to look at the transportation budget, maybe just as a pie, what do you think we need to change as far as the prioritization, and what would you put, first, second, third, fourth?
I guess I would start at the top with helping redefine what the Department of Transportation's mission is. They need to be focused on moving people and moving goods, freight. When I see $1 million bus stuck on 45th with 75 people standing in it, and it can't get through a light cycle because there's too many cars on the road, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 light cycles to clear the intersection, I think, this is a really inefficient use of our resources. It's an inefficient use of our $1 million bus. It's an inefficient use of our limited road space. It's an inefficient use of our people's time that are making a sacrifice to take public transit, and they're just being, ignored. So, the Department of Transportation's jobs would be, we need to move as many people from points A to points B, and what's the most effective way to do that? And so I would urge them to start reallocating our existing road space to focus on bus priority and freight priority. I also think we need to heavily invest in the multimodal, non-motorized stuff. So more bike lanes, more pedestrian access, better thought into how intersections work, better thought into how the street feels to people outside of a vehicle. Because I know that when I'm walking down the street, sometimes I'll be in some neighborhoods and I won't really notice it, and all of a sudden I'll look up like, wow, where am I? Something feels just right about this place. I feel like it's built to my scale and I'm supposed to be here. And other times I feel like I'm a visitor on an alien planet, when you're standing on some intersections. And so those are the types of investments we should prioritize. There's certainly some maintenance stuff, repairs. We just can't afford to keep building more roads, so we have to use what we have more effectively.
Can I jump in and ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Is when we look at the bike master plan, and arguably it could be even bigger and more aggressive than it is, but as it stands, it's at $240 million to implement. And I think the council is, set aside or planning to spend only $60 million or something in that neighborhood. And so even with the head tax revenues, we're probably not going to get to where we need to be, even for the bike master plan, let alone greater investments in transit and say the pedestrian master plan. So I heard you mention on the campaign trail that you were interested in a transportation benefit district. So I was wondering if you could expand on what plans you might have for coming up with the revenues.
So back to the head tax. I want to create, there's a couple things. One of the things I want to use pricing as a tool to help manage demand. So right now our roads are treated as if they're free, and just like anything that we pretend is free, people use way more of it than they would use that as a price to it, and of course roads aren't really free. So we need to put the right economic policies in place so that people see the price mechanism and make better behavior decisions. When we start managing the roads with tools like tolling, we also generate a revenue source. and that revenue source then I think should be used for things that we want. So fully funding the bike master plan, perhaps buying more transit, perhaps doing the types of other types of the pedestrian master plan, road improvements that make sense. Even taking some of that, if we have enough revenue, let's pay down the sales tax. Let's do something that reduces some of the regressive taxes we have. Talking about transportation benefit district, we're talking about a 20% cut to Metro service right now, because even though ridership's at an all-time high, we just don't have the money. And so if the county can't figure out a way to come up with it, and the state is not willing to give the county any more authority, I'm confident that with a good plan, the citizens of Seattle have always shown interest in investing in transit, and we can do that again. So, we can use a transportation benefit district to buy more transit, complete things like the PED master plan, the bike master plan. The fear is, of course, that someone will hijack those dollars and they'll make it, 5% will go to bike PED improvements and transit, and 95% is going to go to, building a tunnel under the waterfront or something like that. And so I think it's important that we control, what that does. The South Park Bridge, that thing looks like it's falling down. There are some road projects that need money. I mean, even the resurfacing of I-5 is, that's not really the city's responsibility. But here's a couple $2 billion of road that I think ultimately probably needs to be fixed. So let's start talking about those types of road projects as priorities before we start looking at expansion.
And do you support expanding the streetcar network?
Kind of mixed on the streetcar. So I like the streetcar. I rode it the day it opened. I think it's cool. It doesn't really go anywhere right now, and I recognize that it's part of a bigger vision. I think in a world of finite transportation dollars, I would really like to see maybe not lane rail and using an electric trolley bus system at a fraction of the cost to deliver the same service. I ride that 194 bus to the airport periodically, and I was on that the other day, and I was sitting down, reading my papers or doing something, and all of a sudden I looked up, because, that thing flies out of the bus tunnel, it flies down that E3 busway, and I was like, what am I on? I was like, this is BRT. We can do these things with our existing buses that feel great, that work great. People love that route. In fact, a friend I told, take it to the airport tomorrow. He lives up in Fremont where I do. And he said, how long does it take? And he texted me, he's like, door to door, or door to terminal, 50 minutes. That's pretty good for $2 with a transfer downtown. So I think electric trolley bus is similar. Let's dedicate some lanes so that those trolley buses move through town. We got the the electrical system already in place. Let's get upgrade the bus infrastructure so that they're nice level platform loading. I think we need to switch the payment system so you pay on the platform so that drivers aren't responsible for collecting fares and arguing with people and making change. Just open the doors, everyone on, everyone off, and start moving them through there. Now, to defend the streetcars, I recognize that streetcars as a economic development tool or a land use change can be beneficial, and it's really hard to measure. I respect people on both sides of that equation that debate it, and if we can find a way to fund that, I think that's certainly, I'd be willing to look at that. But from a transportation budget perspective, with finite transportation dollars, I want to serve as many people, especially now when the existing ridership demand is being met. And I think something like an electric trolley bus system shows a little more promise to me for getting a deeper system than the streetcars.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can I jump in real
Yeah.
quick? You mentioned that you supported tolling,
Mm-hmm.
and where?
I think everywhere, ultimately.
Yeah.
Clearly 520 is most likely going to be the first place we do it, and that'll be the
Right.
first place in the country where we've put tolls on an existing roadway. And I think that's a great first step. It's disappointing it's taken as long as it has to get there, but that's fine. When I was on the Viaduct Stakeholder Committee, we eventually studied 8 different plans, and one of the plans that when we looked at it, we said, why are the travel times so good on this one plan? It was one of the surface alternatives. So it was investing in transit and surface grid improvements. And the SDOT folks kind of under their breath said, well, in that one we modeled kind of system-wide tolling for city streets. Fascinating. It works really well. Look at how those travel times from West Seattle to downtown plummet when you put price on the road. So, I think the study that PSRC did, where they actually put GPS devices on people's cars and then gave them a certain amount of money that they could either spend or keep, depending, and so you start to see behavior changes, was really fascinating. I recognize that there's a lot of different models out there about how we do it. We're probably going to start with the 520, then I'm guessing we go to I-90 pretty quick, and then pretty soon we'll probably get all the limited access freeways in the region. But I think whether it's a cordon price like they do in London, or if it's a per mile price, I think a per mile is probably a better system, because then it just captures everything. You don't get people trying to game the system, like get off at an earlier exit and drive through neighborhoods to save 50 cents or whatever. But there's a question of what technology comes along. But I think the public is ready for leadership to stand up and say, hey guys, roads cost money. We got to start paying for them, and we will give you alternatives with the money we raise for that. It's not a way for us to make a bunch of money. It's a way for us to control demand.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.